Ever see that movie?
Draft
Very,
day? No.
of course. Well, Kevin Costner.
Garbage.
And the what's he's now known, the guy, the Black Panther guy, who's became super famous.
Oh,
I want my
yeah.
picks back.
All of them.
What's going on? Welcome to the Awesemo Morning Show. Dave Loughran, Ben Rasa, Josh Engleman. It's draft day, baby. Tonight, we're getting our first real glimpse of the NFL season, which all of us certainly hope will start on time. Will it? I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. But what we do know is that we're having the first ever virtual NFL draft. Coaches, GMs have war room setups with socially distanced IT guys lurking around their lair. It's going to be a unique one, to say the least. We've got a good show for you. We've also got a couple topics to hit on first, some important ones around the world of sports. But most of today's show, we're going to focus pretty heavily on the draft. We've got odds. We've got draft odds from, well, essentially anything you can think of in terms of betting on this draft. We've got it. Ben's already got some sizable bets in, and we'll talk about them as well. How we doing, guys? Ben, you first.
I'm good. I said this yesterday. I haven't been this excited. Not that I don't like the NFL draft, but this feels like a can't miss sporting event, I guess you could call it. We're all starved for it. It's going to produce, if nothing else, some moments that we'll probably never see again just because of the nature of guys doing this confined to houses and whatnot. So I cannot wait. I am so excited to see this tonight.
Josh, it's says a lot when you're excited for the NFL draft, because the NFL is not necessarily a sport that you are enamored with.
No, not so much. I've run out of things to do, so the NFL draft is now once again a huge thing for me. I want to watch it. I'm intrigued by where everybody's going to go. I'm more into the NFL right now than I've been in a couple of years, which I think is fun. I think it's hilarious that we're like all worried about technical issues during the draft, as if we haven't been doing online fantasy drafts for like a decade. These GMs are just like, I don't know how we're going to make this work. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. Just go on to Yahoo and load your league, man.
I'm not even. I know some people are saying it's going to be an absolute debacle and this and that, and all of us have spoken to the idea that there'll probably be a glitch or two. We'll probably run into a couple of issues, but I'm really not that concerned about this being able to work. I won't say seamlessly or for it to go off without a hitch, but I really don't foresee any circumstances where it's like, oh man, what a horrible experience that was. Terrible draft because of this, that, and the third. Like, I just don't see that happening. Yeah. They've got like, you're going to do everything. The size of the NFL, right? The amount of revenue that they bring in on all fronts. I'm pretty sure they can figure some way out to make this somewhat aesthetically pleasing to the viewer. And Ben, we're seeing like legitimate war room setups in the basements or makeshift offices in the living rooms of these GMs' houses. Like, they've done the tests. If something goes wrong, something goes wrong. But I actually also see this being an instance where the league will probably, and other leagues will probably learn from this and take some lessons with them into the future and actually apply some of these new innovations to the following or the drafts, going forward.
There's no doubt that there's a lot of processes in these, in the country in general that are probably outdated, that sometimes it takes something where you're forced to innovate. Then I hope some of this sticks. Now, obviously, the hitch is if there's a problem with someone's internet or something ridiculous like that. I'd be pretty surprised if we see that. What I am interested to know is what happens, though, if there's like a bombshell, I don't want to say a Laramie Tunsil situation, but like even a trade, a big time trade, and it really shakes up everybody's draft boards. Are some teams unable to, move on the fly because of this? And do they need kind of a very vanilla smooth draft to be effective?
Yeah. And also, Josh, just to kind of play off of what Ben said, I've been reading a lot that a lot of these teams are making trades, or at least attempting to make trades before the draft begins, before their pick is up. But that creates a lot of concern, because if you make the trade well before your own pick to avoid technical issues, and the guy that you were going to draft gets sniped 3 picks ahead of where you wanted to take him, and now you don't want that pick anymore, that's a concern.
It's so insane. We've been, at least I've been saying stuff like this over the past couple of shows. These are essentially 32 individual billion-dollar companies. If they cannot do this and be prepared on the fly, every single person involved should just be gone. This is not, it's insanity. To think this is not just like 10 of us sitting out in our front yard. Like, these are legitimate individual industries for them. And if you can't just be like, oh man, our guy got drafted at 7. I got no idea what to do. And let me be clear, I think that's possible, which is staggering. That's terrifying.
So do I.
The level of incompetence is going to be on full display here.
I mentioned this when we first lost sports. It's now been 43 days or so. And, the thinking is, if you're a producer at ESPN, this is where you prove that you're worth your salt, or you're just not good at all. If you're somebody that comes up with content and helps build out these shows, like, you need to be better than ever. And I think what you're going to see is, and maybe I'm wrong, Ben, but I think Josh is right. I'm not necessarily as concerned that teams won't be able to do it, but the idea that you are going to prove yourself as a legitimate scout, as somebody that legitimately knows how to handle these situations, because your feet are to the fire like no other. It's unprecedented scenario. And it's also a reason why a lot of people are saying there isn't going to be as much groupthink. Like, the scouting process is way different. You're not meeting these players in person. My assumption, not to go too far off base here, is that the NFL draft this season is going to be nowhere close to the mock drafts we've seen basically anywhere, because it, to be fair, usually already isn't.
That's something that, and we're going to dig into this later in the show in terms of best bets and maybe a couple that you can reach on. I do think there are more unknowns. Obviously, the people who write these mock drafts, they have to work on what they know. They just don't have as much information. And I think that gets translated to the consumer in the same way. But we're going to see tonight, are there things that when we look back, were not projected by anyone? Obviously, up top, I think we know what's going to happen, but we'll dig into that in a bit. That's one of the exciting things from a betting standpoint, though.
It really is. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about as far as the draft goes. That'll be the focus of today's show. But let's dive into a couple other important pieces first. Before we do, hit that thumbs up. Helps us immensely. You know why, Josh? Because the algorithm takes out their anger on the little guy.
It does. It's depressing. So we don't want to get destroyed by corporate America. So hit that thumbs up to save us.
Yes, save our lives. Subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. We love hanging out with you guys every single morning on the Awesemo Morning Show. First things first, Josh, I've been fascinated by a story that I don't think's getting enough play, and a lot of it's probably because of the NFL draft and many other things. But the fact that you've got players like Jalen Green that have already made the decision to play in the G League on a 1-year contract and forego college so he can get a $500,000 contract for 1 year. And to be fair, I understand why a lot of these players are doing it. They need the money. But there was a really interesting article in the New York Post titled NBA G League route is not without risk for players. And it kind of speaks to the idea that if you get hurt in college, you still have the opportunity to finish, get your degree without any cost based on the scholarship and a lot of other things. Like, you could stay in college for another year if you get hurt to prove that you're worth being drafted as a lottery pick. Whereas in this case, you have to be majorly confident that you will not get hurt and that you're confident against this competition that, as you know, a 5-star prospect like Jalen Green or Isaiah Todd, both whom have decided to sign with the G League, that you are going to prove yourself, and this $500,000 is going to be worth it in the long run.
I wonder how much an insurance policy is for someone like Jalen Green.
Yeah.
Because that's really all that comes down to for me.
Yep.
You're taking 500 G's or whatever, and you're putting in some sort of insurance policy that if you are not able to be drafted in the next season because of catastrophic injury, that you're probably good to go. I think this first year of getting people to go to the G, it's going to be a learning experience, but I think that this is going to pave the way for a very, very interesting dynamic between college basketball and the NBA. Because this is now becoming college basketball's problem, and the NBA is just like, we don't care. They also snatched it straight away from Australia. Australia was basically trying to do this, and now the G League is basically usurping them.
Right, and it's so, Ben, when you look at how this all shakes out, you've got some college coaches that remain unnamed, saying this is basically just a way for the NBA to, properly scout players and avoid potential unnecessary risk. Guys like Green, 6'5", consensus top 3 prospect. He doesn't take as much risk as someone like Todd. And I'm reading from the article, 6'10", raw by comparison, ranked 14th in his class by 24/7 Sports. If you are a top prospect, a 5-star prospect, projected as a lottery pick, is this a decision you think is worth making?
I certainly think it's worth exploring. The insurance policy, that Josh mentioned, is a wrinkle that is very important. I guess what I'm interested to see is that, are we going to go back to where they can say, you know what, you can go straight from high school? I think that would alleviate this. It would help college. It would help the NBA. I don't like kind of where this is trending. And then just to add in, not to be, I don't even know what you want to call it. I don't want to say conspiracy theory, because I think it's pretty common knowledge now. You do have the option, even though it's highly not legal for the NCAA, to go to college and get paid. I know that's under the table, but I think that is obviously prevalent for a lot of guys. So it's not like these kids couldn't, I don't know what the money would be. And I'm not saying it's at every school, but I'm sure they have offers where they would be compensated and they would still be able to go one and done.
Yeah.
Josh, the question I had is, from a competition level, how close in competition do you think the G League is to college basketball?
It's higher. It's
higher.
Yeah.
I'm saying, that's why I said, how close do you think it is?
Not particularly close. You're just dealing with a lot more men and a lot less kids, so to speak.
I feel like it could expose players, or it could vault them easily to the top of the draft. If you come in the G League and you're dominating among players, who are no longer in college, players who are older, that, like you said, grown men, it could help you. But I also think, okay, I'm going to use this example. Feel free to scrutinize it if you'd like.
If you're about to say Markelle Fultz, I'm going to lose my mind.
You're absolutely right. If Markelle Fultz went into this, I'm serious. I want your opinion on this. It's a very fair question. Markelle Fultz goes into the G League. Does he still go first overall?
Yes.
Well, might go undrafted for all we know.
So he's a terrible example.
I'm just kidding.
For all of this. Because it's not like he just came into the league and flopped. I mean, who the hell knows what happened on the back end for Fultz? But he would have come into the G League and dominated it. Like the ideal of Fultz, if he goes to the G League, he's incredibly good, one of the best players in the G League.
I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, that if you were a kid, it would be better for your draft stock to dominate college than the G League, just because of the hype. You get exposed in the tournament. You get dominating the G League doesn't mean anything to people. Now, maybe the people that matter it does, but I think you're getting more exposure dominating in college.
Are you saying it's better for the player?
Yes.
I agree.
So in theory, yes, but not if the NBA finds a way to build out the G League in the sense of actually creating more attention. Because the more 5-star recruits that decide to take that $500,000 check, then you, me, and Josh are probably talking about the G League far more often and actually paying attention to some of these games. So I think a lot of it depends on how it's marketed and how they build out the G League.
No doubt. And that's why
You
I
don't
think
want
in
to
a
be
couple
the
of years
guinea
it'll be
pig,
there.
you know?
What'd you say, Ben?
I said, yeah, that's very true. But if I was a kid, I don't want to be the guinea pig to say I'm
Oh
going
yeah,
to be
sure.
first. If it becomes a reasonable ask, but if I was a Moni Bates or any of these big time players, I'm going to Kentucky. I'm playing 1 year under Calipari, and then I'm going.
Yeah. No, look, I'm with you there. I'm saying as a fan though, I would definitely have considerably more interest in a G League if you ended up having, let's say 8 top prospects or like, I don't know, 8, 10 projected first rounders or even 10 projected drafted players jumping into the G League. It would make things more interesting. And it might be more appealing to other players to do the same. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. But yeah, it's certainly not without risk. And $500,000 is a nice chunk of change until you get hurt. I can't say I blame them for doing it though. Turning the page to a little bit of PGA action. We always update you as we get news on sports. I told you we would, and that's exactly what we're doing. Why do we talk about golf? It's not the June 11 return date, Ben. It's the fact that Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady are teaming up for a first of its kind 2v2 golf match that will be free to watch, not pay-per-view like Woods and Mickelson, on TNT, with all proceeds going to COVID-19 relief. Sunday, May 24th is what we're looking at here, and it's likely going to be in, drumroll please, Florida.
Shocking. Yeah, that was a mortal lock. This is what we were just alluding, or at least I was. These are the type of things that I think you can take. We're looking for positives any way we can get them out of obviously a tragic situation. This is the kind of stuff they should have been doing all the time. That's a great idea. I cannot wait to watch it. Is it, it's cool. It's different. I have no idea. You've got Tiger and Peyton versus Phil and Brady. Will they gamble? How is it going to be structured? They tried this with Phil versus Tiger, which I thought was interesting, but had its faults. I can't wait to watch this. I think it's a really funny gimmick, and it's a great idea.
Josh, are you in on this?
Oh, I am 1,000,000% in. It's so much fun. All I want to know is how much is the side action between those four when they're on it's got to be
astronomical.
Yeah. Like I wonder when they talked about it, like, yo, how much are we all putting in for this bad boy?
Does Phil Mickelson do a contest like this without a massive side pot?
I mean, in this particular case, yes, but
no,
barely.
I don't think so.
He's in the Jordan bucket of like,
yeah.
Like he is always looking to do it. This is like one of the few chances where he might be like, whatever, I'll play regardless. Like, you guys don't want the action, it's fine. But yeah, he wants it.
He's going to be all in on this. There's no doubt about it. I'm looking forward to it. Ben, Mickelson Woods was I didn't watch it, but from everything I heard, pretty underwhelming. Not exactly something to be excited about. I think this is a little bit different because you've got a 2v2. It makes it a little bit more enticing. And especially during these times, anything like this is going to be something that we're going to tune into. And quite frankly, I'm all about betting it myself. Forget about what Phil's doing, right? Forget about what Tiger and Peyton and Brady are doing. I want in on this. There's no question it's going to make for a ton of content, a ton of entertainment, and a ton of money changing hands.
I think one of the big things is that what we saw when it was just Phil and Tiger in golf, there's just so much downtime, and only having two guys, it's hard to carry the conversation. I think when you have four, though, the dynamic will be exponentially bigger just because someone will always be talking. It'll have a group dynamic. That was my big complaint about Tiger and Phil. It's like they hit their shots and then there's dead air. And it's kind of tricky if the commentators aren't able to keep up.
Yeah, that could be an issue. But at the same time, we just have to enjoy it. We got to watch it, and we got to put money somewhere, because what else is there at this point? May 24th, though. What's interesting here, though, Josh, is like this. It's very possible that we start seeing more stuff begin, at least to plan a return. We'll see how that plays out. But if we've got empty stadiums, that'll make things interesting. May 9th, we've talked about UFC 249 is set to begin. We've got Bundesliga starting up sooner than later. It should be the first to actually reopen. And then other leagues discussing the returns, one of them being the PGA Tour on June 11th. So it's going to be right around that time where we start to get a good idea of what the future of sports looks like, at least in 2020.
It's going to be great. Like, is that as good as, like, how much better could that potential matchup get? Like, I can't think of many other people that they could add to it where they get like a really wide range of people wanting to tune into it.
Oh, it's a perfect match.
The only other one would be if you got Michael Jordan in there. Like,
I was going to say Justin Timberlake.
Just sure. But if Michael Jordan,
he's good.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, but like, what's the crossover on Justin Timberlake fans in golf? They might tune in for a hole or something, be like, "Oh, look at Justin," and then be out.
I think that if Justin Timberlake were replaced, like, took the place of Peyton Manning in this spot, Katie would watch it, or at least like feign interest.
Right.
Whereas there's no chance she would tune in to a single second of this.
If it's Michael Jordan, oh my God, that everything would change. But whatever, we're gonna watch it.
Jordan and Barkley instead of Brady.
Jordan and dude, that to me would actually be more interesting than Brady and Manning. But that's personal.
Barkley can't play though. I mean,
he's got a great swing.
It's smooth,
very natural.
Yeah, Romo would be great, but Romo's in a different league though.
Yeah.
Like,
would you agree that Charles Barkley is the Markelle Fultz of golf?
No.
I mean, the hitch in his swing is equally as horrendous as the hitch in Markelle Fultz free throws.
Can you imagine if he was bouncing the club between his hands before he did it? Your hatred of Fultz,
that's a great comp.
Killing me.
Great comp. Let's talk a little NFL draft. It's time. Yeah. It's what we're all here for. It's what we've been waiting for a long time now. On DraftKings, we've got props. We've got draft props. We got first round specials, picks by position, you name it, everything here, a whole lot of specials to get into. Ben, I know you've already booked some bets. You've got some action on the draft tonight, which, by the way, if you wanted to watch this draft, all you got to do is tune in at 8:30 and enjoy the action of the first ever virtual draft. 8 o'clock to approximately 11:30. My guess is probably goes, actually, I don't know. This might end way earlier than normal drafts, with teams probably not taking their whole 10 minutes, but we'll see.
Yeah,
nevertheless,
no idea.
That always makes me mad. Not to go on a brief tangent, but
do.
The Bengals are taking Burrow. We all know that. They don't need to take like 4 minutes. Just do it. Just do it.
Right. Yeah, it's really dumb. It's like slow rolling in poker. You got the nuts, just call.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, we all know why they don't.
Why is that?
So that you can show like a video package and an interview and stuff. Like the time between it doesn't really, like, they would take them if the NFL wasn't like, you need to use the full time.
Do you really think that's it? I never thought of that.
100%.
Not on the first pick, maybe on later picks though, because the first pick you got all the time prior to that.
Right, but like, okay, sure, I understand what you're saying there. That one's kind of ridiculous, but like, you're going to use the full time for all of those picks so that they can show.
Yeah,
no, I was specifically talking about the first pick. Though.
Okay, I mean,
yeah,
it's the same thing.
In terms of all of the picks, that makes sense because you're still trying to make this a production. Like, this is a show. It's entertainment. So being able to run the highlights and do the interview and stuff afterwards totally makes sense. Ben, Tua Tagovailoa. You're going to have to excuse me there every time I say his name. Over or under 5.5. We're talking about draft position, where they're taken in the draft. He's at 5.5. Now, for context, you've got Justin Herbert also at 5.5. Where are you standing on these two?
So this is one of the hot topics for the draft. I think that Tua was sizably ahead of Justin Herbert. He's steamed. I doubt it was because of me, but certainly I've been trying to drive that bandwagon. And now they're back and forth. It seems like Tua has gotten a little momentum very recently again. Just looking at the draft conceptually, you've got Burrow going. Then you have several teams that it seems very doubtful are going to take a quarterback. But then you have the 5th and 6th pick with the Dolphins and the Chargers. That's where it seems like both of these are going to go. But the allure of the 3rd pick, will a team go up and get the quarterback that they want? That is something the Lions control that pick. And that is the first major development wild card I think we could see in the draft. Will a team go up and get Tua or Herbert? It seems like if someone does, it's going to be Tua at this point. He is a favorite, but that is something to keep an eye on. I think that could really get the draft off to a crazy start.
So here's why I ask this, Josh. If you're looking at FanDuel, they've got a $10,000 predict the draft, fuel the frontline charity free play, $10,000. And the way this works is you're selecting picks 1 through 10. Pretty cool idea, actually.
Yeah.
Right? You're selecting picks 1 through 10 and trying to nail all of these. Not easy. And 2 is definitely going to be one of the more difficult ones, the ones that a lot of people likely end up getting wrong, especially depending on if we see any trades, if we see the Detroit Lions trade out. It's going to make things unique, to say the least. So you're picking 1 through 10. Let's go ahead and see if we can put this together and draft our 1 through 10 for the 10K FanDuel Draft Challenge, which, by the way, giving away a decent little amount of money to first place, $1,000 completely free to enter. With the number 1, Josh, I think we know where we go here.
Markelle Fultz.
Would be a great decision, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, Joe Burrow is going 1.
And then, Ben, I think Chase Young, I don't know, barring any unforeseen circumstance, he's got to go 2, right?
So to me, this truly is you're picking 8 players.
Okay.
You can never say never, but there is no scenario that I could see where Chase Young isn't the 2nd pick. The Redskins want him. Obviously, he's going to be available. They're not going to trade out. He's, minus 1,000 to be the 2nd pick. He is going to be the 2nd pick. Then we got to predict 8 slots, and it's going to be very difficult. Like we said, we get to that 3rd one. I think if the Lions draft, it will be Okudah. A lot of people are saying they may try to trade out, and that's where it gets very difficult. Do we think that they hold the pick and draft, or will they trade out and move back?
It's going to be really hard to fill something like this out. It's just incredibly tough. So if you go Okudah and then you go number 4 at this rate, like looking at the team. So, okay, if we're looking at the order.
By the way, I have it up on the screen now.
Okay, awesome. So if you're looking at the order of teams selecting, you've essentially put yourself in a spot where you're assuming Detroit is going to pick Okudah and they're not going to trade down. Is there any chance that Detroit says, you know what, Matthew Stafford, you've given us a lot, but it's time to move on, and they take a quarterback?
I would be stunned. Now, if it comes out that Stafford is not healthy, that's a development to me. I've seen whispers of that. Chat's talking about it. Man, I would be stunned. I think that's a smokescreen. If they want to trade out, maybe they're letting that get out there so teams are forced to try to move up to get Tua if they really want him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you say that they're considering taking a quarterback. If you're Miami and you want Tua, you may have to flip 3 and 5, and you're going to give up. It's amazing to move up 2 spots what you'll have to give up.
Oh, remember the Eagles gave up an incredible amount to get to that 2 pick. They moved up a little bit more than 2 picks, but still you're you're wagering a large chunk of your future on the idea that you're going to hit that pick. Do we have to go Tristan Wirfs at 4 here?
So it's going to be.
So we are going Okudah 3.
Do we want to be different and say that someone goes and gets Tua?
I mean, here's the deal. Do we want to win? How many?
I don't want to win. Put Booby in.
Well, we have to think about it like this. What's the way to get slightly different? And not literally have the same...
just by filling out 4 through 10.
I don't think it's 4. I think it's 3 through 10.
Okay, 3 through 10. But I'm saying, like, I don't think you actively even need to try to be different in this.
Why not?
I know what you're saying, Laffy, because there's so many permutations.
Yeah, but you're gonna. How many people? Like, I assume we're gonna overlap with an insane amount of people. Look, Okudah's plus 175 to go third. Tua is plus 300 and Herbert's plus 400. There is not a wild gap there.
No. But once you get to like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you're essentially being contrarian without being contrarian, in my opinion.
I think we're confusing something being hard with something being like the normal way to go. If we just picked everybody that is the likely spot 1 through 10, we're going to overlap with 1,000 people.
No. And what I'm saying is I don't even think there are likely spots in a lot of these picks.
I guess what we're trying to say is, are we trying to be correct or are we trying to win this free roll?
Right. Oh. And I'm saying it's 2 in the same. It's not like we're so okay. Let's do this. Who do we want to go with at 3? Do we want to do Tua?
Like, I can't stop thinking about this from DFS purposes. Like, I'm trying to think about how many people I think will have Okudah compared to Tua and whether or not that's like the same as the odds and whether or not that's the right way to do that.
That is the right way to do it, of course.
Do you understand what I'm saying though? In that, like I don't think there is chalk on something like this.
Yes, I know what you're saying. The most popular pick at like the 8th spot might be like 13% owned.
Right.
The most popular guy. Like, no matter who you pick, you're not going to be on a mess because there is no one who's obvious back there.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. So
we can go Tua, but then the question becomes, does Okudah fall?
Well,
somebody's going to be taking him.
Well, yes, he falls out of 3, but I'm saying, does he go from 3 to 6? Does he go from 3 to 4? How big of a drop do you see with somebody like Okudah if he doesn't go number 3 and someone trades up? Because if certain teams are drafting based on need and not best available, then it starts to get really interesting.
So I think we need to plot this out a little bit. If we're saying 2 is going 3, who's he going to?
I think
Miami, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe we flip Okudah and Tua in terms of those picks, where the Lions now grab him at 5.
Right.
That would make sense to me, and that actually makes perfect sense. So let's put him in at 5, and we still got to take someone at 4. I mean,
who's going to the Giants? That's just Simmons.
That's a lineman, I would say.
I think Wirfs is probably the guy right now that would make the most sense here. But if we don't want to go with making the most sense, then I'm open to doing something different.
So there is a player, and I'm certainly biased here because I have a large bet on this guy going under 9.5, and I closed really well here. Jedrick Wills is a lineman from Bama who's picked up a ton of steam lately. He is very live to go to the Giants at 4. It's him or Wirfs, in my opinion.
I've seen
it's Wills leading that. He leads the Giants' likely selections at plus 140.
Yeah, I've been seeing him in mock drafts going to the Giants, so I'm okay with that. And honestly, think about it. Like, outside of the top 2 picks, I'm assuming, Josh, and if you wanted to, now actually don't worry about pulling it up on the screen. But outside of the first 2 picks in this draft, everyone is not like, I would say every single pick is plus something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than Burrow and Young. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Position wise, no, but the player himself, yes.
Yes, exactly. So that makes things a whole lot more intriguing once you get down past 1 or 2. So let's go ahead and throw Jedrick Wills in there. We've got Okuda at 5, assuming we get a trade up scenario. This is tough, man. And then let's just assume we stick at 6. If
I like
you're
what
staying
we're doing here.
Yeah. So this is Chargers now. Is this Herbert?
Yeah. Is this Justin Herbert?
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be. I get that they're saying that they feel great about Tyrod Taylor. Listen, I was born at night, boys, but I wasn't born last night. Everybody knows that Tyrod Taylor is not the future of that organization. I think this has got to be Herbert.
Minus 400 to take a quarterback.
Got to be Herbert.
Yep.
Unless you want to go with like
here comes
Love.
Hurts.
Yeah.
From the clouds.
So past that, you've got the Carolina Panthers. I've seen a lot of mock drafts showing them get Isaiah Simmons, Clemson linebacker. Any thoughts here?
Who's 7?
Carolina Panthers.
This is a tough one. I think if they go best available, it's Simmons.
Yeah.
Derek Brown is, I think, very live to be this pick as well. It's just very tough. I think that's kind of what you're looking at.
Just to add this in, defensive lineman plus 150, linebacker plus 200, corner plus 225, and then we're at plus 600 for offensive lineman. So we're definitely looking at some sort of defender.
Yeah. So let's pick one here. Who do we have?
It's got to be this has to be the landing spot for Simmons, right?
I think so. I think it's tough for him to fall past this spot for sure.
The new Kuechly.
Yeah. And then you move on to the Jaguars or the Cardinals, Jags, and Cleveland Browns.
All right. So
Cardinals going lineman, you would think.
Minus 143 for an offensive lineman as their first drafted player.
Okay.
So I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not saying we need to do this, but I have seen whispers that there are several teams, including the Broncos, that may try to go up to 8 to grab. Now, Jerry Jeudy has cooled a bit. This was the talk a couple days ago. Now I don't see it as much. It would be worse if it's the Cardinals, in my opinion. But if we want to shake it up, I think you could go receiver here and pray that they don't pick.
God, can a receiver go in the top 10?
I think we're going to see one come off the board in the top 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So who do you think is trading up to do that?
There's a few teams that are in the mix to do something like that. The Eagles, I expect to trade up, but I don't expect them at all to trade into the top 10 because you're giving up way too much equity from 21 to like 8 or 9 or 10.
It is a giant mistake to do it right here.
It would be a huge mistake because
not if you go get Jeudy.
Still a mistake.
Ben's all in on the Jude Meister.
I don't think that you could trade up to beat people to the group of wide receivers.
We talked about
especially
this. Especially
for a wide receiver. I think you can only trade up for a quarterback. Like this.
My concern isn't trading up. It's how far you're trading up. If you're trading up from 21 to 17 because you really want a guy, you're afraid he's not going to be there. I get that. 21 to 8. God, that's giving up a lot.
No, but Denver's at 15. That's not as bad.
Sorry, what's that?
Denver's at 15, which is not nearly as bad.
Okay,
right.
So to go from 15 to 8, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Potentially,
The 8th pick is 406 points on the new chart. 15 is 315. So they need to make up like 90 points, which is a low end, maybe like a third rounder.
Provide the viewers with some context here in terms of how much that disparity in points actually means.
Sure. I'll put it on the screen right now. So
because that's actually really interesting. It's just even me hearing that, I don't know how much the difference in 90 points actually is.
Yeah. So there are trade value charts. They've been getting updated year by year as we get more and more information. So right now I have it on the screen. So the 8th pick is worth 406 points. The most that you could have anything be worth is Cincinnati at 1,000. So Arizona's 8th pick is worth 406. Denver at 15 is worth 315. So you need to make up basically 90 points.
Okay.
So in that case, Denver's 3rd round pick is worth 60. So it could be like a 3rd and a 4th to move up that spot. It could be like a future 2nd to get moved up to that spot, because a second round pick in 2021 is discounted compared to what it would be right now. So like Denver's current 2nd round pick is 128. So they can include theirs and then maybe get like a 4th round back from Arizona to make that sort of work. So it could be either like a future 2nd or maybe like a 3rd and a 5th, something like that would probably get you pretty close.
This chart really allows you to get a good idea of, and obviously this isn't like, it just because you're looking at this doesn't mean that they're giving up a 3rd for it, but it means that that's in the neighborhood of what they should be giving up.
Yeah.
Or what could be comparable. But I mean, look at the number 1 pick being 1,000 points. So if you any teams, not that it would happen, but trying to trade from like 15 to 1, just insurmountable amount of picks and talent you'd have to give up for that.
Do you want to know how crazy it really is? So Cincinnati's at 1. Miami has 5. We'll call it 470. They have 18. That's 290. So we're at 770 there between the two, right? I think I did that math right.
Around that, yeah.
And then 26 is 223. Call it 220. So we're just barely getting there for Miami's 3 first-round picks in this draft.
In this draft alone. Yeah. If you took every one of their picks and an additional 1st round pick, it still wouldn't be enough.
If you're Cincinnati and Miami offered you 5, 18, and whatever it is, 20, whatever, would you take it?
I mean, I would in a heartbeat, but I'm not as sold on Burrow.
I would snap
5,
take that.
18, and 20.
26.
What are they? 5, 18, and
5, 18, and 26.
Oh man,
I'd take it in a heartbeat.
I would take it for 5 and 18.
If it was 5, 18, and 26, you say, fuck it, I'm taking Tua or I'm taking Herbert.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And no.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, you say yeah. And then I'll grab 2 other 1st round picks.
And then you grab one of the wide receivers that start to fall, maybe an offensive lineman that falls, and you're just like, oh, hell yeah.
It's a snap yes on that, for sure.
I have little doubt that Cincinnati's gotten that offer from Miami.
Dude.
I'm sure they've gotten some big time offers, yeah.
Miami would be so dumb to do that. Miami could position themselves really, really well for the future if they draft even remotely well today. This is think about how massive this opportunity is. They have the 5th or the what is it, 18? I can't see it. Or the 5, the 18, and the 26th.
Yeah.
And then they've got, I think, 1 or 2 second rounders.
Yeah, they pick 39th. They have a war chest. They pick 50.
It's insane.
56. I think they'd be more likely to do 5 and 26. They would want to keep 18 and include like next year's first
or something,
or include next year's first plus something else. I don't think that they would give the 3 in the 1st round. I think that would be like the problem. But if I'm Cincy, like that could probably work out really well for them.
They have 5 picks in the top 2 rounds.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really fascinating draft for the Miami Dolphins. And I'm not necessarily sure who they take here. If we round this out real quick, because I want to get to this.
Yeah. So we need to figure out who we're taking at the 8 spot with the Cardinals. We diverged a little bit.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun though, talking about that Dolphins team and the draft values.
Yeah.
Screw it. Let's go. You want to go Judy or Lamb, Ben? Assuming a team trades up.
Go Lamb.
Even
though I think it'll be Judy. It should be Judy. I've seen a lot of teams. I think some teams are more enamored with CD Lamb, but I'm not on that bandwagon. I think Judy is the guy that teams should go get, but it doesn't seem that that's going to happen.
Okay. So then you've got the Jags and you've got the Cleveland Browns.
Did we just determine we're going Lamb?
Yeah, we're taking a shot, trying to differentiate.
And we're assuming that wasn't the Jags or the Browns that did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's like the Eagles or the Broncos.
Broncos, there's been a lot of talk about them trading up to get an elite receiver alongside Cortland Sutton for sure.
Burrow will be the new school Romo. That would be, if he's the new school Romo, they should snap take him. But
Yeah, he would go 1.
yeah, but
Yeah,
no doubt. Like, if you knew you were getting Tony Romo's career, you are the first pick in the draft by a mile.
yeah, then I'm not taking the 3 first rounders, but I don't think he's going to be Tony Romo.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him either.
The only issue here is now you've got Tristan Wirfs, who hasn't been drafted, and pretty much every mock draft has him going within the top 7 or 8 picks. Not to say that means a whole lot, but it does seem like this guy is, right now an uber talent. Ben, as a matter of fact, this is the player you might have been after yesterday's show.
It was. Yeah.
That you said is an absolute freak. Highest vertical ever by a lineman. Ran a 40 that a man of his size should not be able to run. I
don't mind him to the Browns. Like, I know that'd be a disappointment for him, but I don't think it's impossible that he falls. If Wills goes 4th, I don't know how many teams are going to get trade up for a lineman, and he may fall to that 9 or 10 range.
So I'm going to go Mekhi Becton, or I'm going to go Wirfs at 9 and then Becton at 10. Those are my final picks.
So Jags odds plus 250 on D lineman, plus 300 offensive lineman, plus 350 corner, plus 350 quarterback. So what they're saying is,
so
who the hell knows? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So you said you're going
Brown,
Becton or Wirfs first?
I'm going to go Wirfs to the Jags, and I'm going to go Mekhi Becton to Cleveland. And I feel pretty good about this one.
All right. Cleveland is minus 200 for an offensive lineman. So
I just
it's either
submit.
Becton or Thomas would be the...
Yeah. Becton failed a drug test, which,
sounds like Cleveland.
How much that matters. Yeah, lock it up. But we're gonna see CJ Henderson is live for that pick. He's the second best cornerback in the draft. Eric Brown. It's gonna be fascinating. I can't wait to see it. And then, not that this is relevant for this, where does Jordan Love go? He's the next quarterback. Super polarizing. Some people love him. Some people think no dice. And then how far do we wait for the 5th quarterback? Maybe Eason, Frommer. I guess it could be Hurts as well. Some people are into him.
Wait, there might be 5 quarterbacks in the first round?
I think
that's
Joe
impossible. Burrow getting drafted?
Joe Burrow. Yeah, I had a slight miscalculation in my I was betting last night, and I counted the quarterbacks wrong. Forgot about Burrow of all people. But we'll see. I still think there's no chance it gets above 4. I guess someone could go get Hurts or Eason from, I doubt, but.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's close with this. There's so much we can get to, and we're going to break down everything tomorrow once we get the first round picks. This will give us a lot to talk about for sure. What teams, when you're looking through the first round, which teams are in need of a QB and are legitimately considering it, right? So you've got Cincinnati.
Yes.
Do we throw Detroit in as a potential one, or do we have to rule them out? Because Matthew Stafford is getting up there in age, and it seems like they might begin some form of rebuilding stage.
I don't think that there's any scenario to take a quarterback if you're the Lions.
See, I thought it's possible they trade down and still grab one, but we'll keep them out of it for now.
I don't have much of an issue with, but I think it's impossible for them to take one at 3.
See, to me, that makes even less sense. Because, if you really are going to take, then you just take Tua at 3.
Okay.
Or if Herbert. I would take Herbert, but I don't think they would. Maybe, though. I think that'll be fascinating if Stafford is truly on the way out.
So, the Redskins have Haskins.
I have an actual thought behind that for QB for the Lions. We've learned now in these past couple of years that having a quarterback on a rookie contract is such a massive boon for being able to fill out the rest of your roster that actually burning a year or whatever behind Stafford is problematic down the line. Now, if you think you're taking, I don't think that anybody can really think that they're taking like their guy that's going to be there for 15 years, just given the way that draft history works. I think it's a really risky situation now to burn years of a quarterback on your bench.
And Stafford's got 3 years left on his salary, of which he's getting paid a lot of money, man. So fair enough point there. So keeping it going though, after that, you've got, you start getting some question marks because the Dolphins have to draft a quarterback in the first round. They have 3 picks.
They're going to.
They will. I don't see any way the Chargers don't draft a quarterback. I'd be shocked if they didn't. With all of those offensive players, with all of that firepower, not having somebody that can reliably get you the ball down the road, to me is insanity. So that's 3 right there, right? Does Carolina shock the world? I know you shake your head, but just hear me out here. Does Carolina shock the world and end up drafting someone knowing that Teddy Bridgewater is their I guess the contract that he signed makes it kind of difficult.
That's what I was going to say.
0%
63 million. But it seems like such an unwise decision to sign him to that.
To me, you've got teams like the Colts, the Steelers, maybe even the Jaguars. Someone there, I think if they have an eye on Jordan Love, can maybe go and get him in the teens. I think that's a ridiculous risk. But I think that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the next QB off the board.
Like, we know the Cardinals aren't. No. We know the Browns aren't. We know the Jets aren't. I don't know. You start getting into these teams that have middling quarterbacks. Like, you know, the 49ers aren't. The Raiders with Derek Carr, it's like, is it crazy to think that if someone's there, they take a shot? I don't think so. And I feel like there's
doing that.
What?
I don't see Gruden doing that.
It's possible that he doesn't. I mean, it's probably likely that he doesn't, but they're one of those teams where they don't have a young Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold, regardless of what you think about those guys. The future at the position is murky, to say the least. So, yeah. Like, how much longer does Matt Ryan have left? The Falcons have a couple years before they need to start thinking about a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how old is Matt Ryan now? 36?
But 34. He's not.
Oh, he's got 6 years left.
Is he only 30? Is he really only 34?
Yeah. I thought he was a year older than me.
I thought he'd been in the league longer than that.
I mean, he's been in the league a long time. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He graduated high school 03.
He's been in the league for 11. This will be his 12th year. So yeah, but there's zero urgency there or in Dallas. But the Raiders have 2 first-round picks. I don't know. What about Jacksonville, Ben? Like, what about these teams?
Jacksonville, I think, is a lot. Like I said, Jacksonville, the Colts, the Steelers. The problem
Patriots.
I think the big problem, and maybe teams see this differently, just for me, there's a true gigantic gap between the 3 of them, then Love, and then to me, there's another gigantic gap.
Gotcha.
I don't think it dictates taking those type of quarterbacks in the end of the first round. I just don't see it falling that way. Maybe someone says, you know what, this is our guy. I think he's going to be good. We want to go get Hurts or we want to go get Love. To me, I just don't see it equating with first round value.
Okay. So that makes the most sense at this point. Teams might be looking for someone, but those who aren't in desperate need, say the Raiders,
they might wait.
Maybe take a shot in the late, like in the second or third. That makes a lot more sense than kind of blowing your load in the first on a guy that you don't necessarily feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Like from Eason, these are type of guys. I expect them off the board in the second, third round easily, just not in the first.
Okay. So as we get towards the end of the show, let's close it out with this, fellas. You've got draft odds draft props. Here's a very fun one. You've got the first, second overall pick as bets that you can do. There's position of Mr. Irrelevant, which no one has any idea. You're just throwing darts at that. Position of team's first pick. Team's first pick. Josh, you went over a bunch of that already. Here's the I think is the most fun one to get into, and we'll all give our takes on this. We'll love to hear what you have to say in chat as well. Hit that thumbs up for us while we hang out and close this one out. By the way, subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. First or exact order of first 3 receivers off the board. So you've got Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs, and Lamb, Judy, and Ruggs at plus 350. And you got Judy, Ruggs, Lamb, Ruggs, Judy at plus 550. And then here you go. Before it gets out of control, Ruggs, Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, Lamb, Judy at 600. So as we can see here, it's unlikely that Ruggs is the first receiver here, but, and I talked about this. I brought on a guest on Sirius XM the other day that has joined me a bunch of times, Trevor Sikkema. He was a Tampa Bay Bucks writer and does work for the Draft Network. And Ben, we basically came to the conclusion that it's like Judy and Lamb in a tier of their own, or in the first tier, and then Ruggs kind of in a tier of his own at that 3 for a lot of people at least. So most of these have Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs in some combination as the first 3. And then Jefferson comes into the picture at plus 1,100, plus 1,600. Ruggs being drafted first with Judy and Jefferson at plus 2,000. Pretty interesting setup here.
Yeah, I think that Judy and Lamb have kind of separated. I order them in that order. Some people don't. Then you have that huge pack of the guys you mentioned, whether Jefferson can crash the party. I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting if you're getting like 15 plus to 1 for him going third, but we'll have to see what happens. I think trades will ultimately determine the wide receivers more than any other position.
Josh, what about you?
It's so weird to even see props like this. Like first 3 wide receivers that are going to get drafted 5, 10, 15 or something ridiculous. I don't even have a lean. I mean, I would expect Judy to go off the board first from a like scouting profile perspective, but it doesn't appear like that is super likely. It seems like a coin flip at best now between him and Lamb. What I want to know is, who do you think the Eagles end up with with their first round draft pick?
So it's so tough. Jefferson, they've talked to Mims. I really don't know.
Who do you want?
The Viscous Chenault is one that Ben is super high on, and I really like him if he were to stay healthy. I did a lot of research into him the past couple of days, and I feel great in terms of talent. He actually penned something in the Players Tribune, which is pretty cool. I would like Lamb. I would like CeeDee Lamb, but that's not necessarily going to happen.
Minus 200 for a wideout, I might add. Eagles.
Oh yeah, and that makes sense. So here's what I would say is the top 3. I think it's actually going to be Lamb, Judy, Ruggs, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone's enamored by this speed and goes Lamb, Ruggs, Judy. That's not the craziest thing in the world. I would think it'd be a really bad decision, or Judy, Ruggs, Lamb, but Ruggs going in the middle of that. Anyway, we got to get out of here. It's been a fun show. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. Enjoy the draft. Have fun. Tweet at us. Follow us. Yeah. We'll enjoy this one together at JazzRaz DFS, at Laffy_D, at Josh Engleman. We'll do it all again tomorrow. And it's going to be draft recap, a phenomenal show to come join. We'll dissect everything together as a team here on the Awesemo Morning Show. We'll catch you back here Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern.